Hi everyone, Don Dodson from Dodson Designs, and today on Dodson Creates and Leather, we're going to talk about how preparation fosters motivation and helps us fight against the evil monster of procrastination. We're going to learn about some strategies that will help you keep moving forward on those important projects. Check it out. Do you ever have one of those things where you just can't get started? You're not really motivated to start the project or return to a project. Maybe you've been procrastinating and you're just stuck. So I was thinking about this problem the other day, and I realized that there's a couple ways that you can help with this kind of a situation. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Take a little break from tutorials and talk about some sort of mindset and some workflow things that could help you. So today we're going to be addressing motivation and preparation, how those two are connected, and then how they help prevent procrastination. So a big component to this is how you do your work day, how you do your work session, because I know some of you are, you do this in the evening, you are not full-time like me, you do this on weekends or even every couple weeks. So a key component of this is how you end and start your work sessions, your crafting sessions, as it were. And a big component of that is not leaving a work session, not stopping without having a decision, a problem solved for the next session. Okay? As we know, in our world, for creative folks, and actually anybody, there's a lot about problem solving involved. It might just simply be something like, oh, I don't know what color to use. I'm trying to decide my color scheme. I'm trying to decide, where I'm going to put certain elements. I'm going to try to decide what closure to put on a bag, how I'm going to join two pieces. All of those components are problems. It's not a earth-shattering problem, but it's a decision that needs to be made. So a big component about this is when you end a work session, you kind of want to know the answer. You don't have to actually execute, but you have to have the decision made. So I'm going to use, after working today, I know that I'm going to use this color scheme. So that whenever I come back to that project, whether it's the next day or the next week, I know exactly what I need to do. And this is a really big thing about, it's a helpful motivator, because when you know what you need to do next, it's kind of like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do when I step into this project next. I know that I'm going to use this color scheme. I know that I'm going to join these two pieces this way. And it removes that possibility, that seed of procrastination that can creep in, because procrastination oftentimes is our worst enemy. And it comes from a couple things, one of which is uncertainty. We do not know what to do next. And sometimes that's our perfection talking, because we're trying to decide, we're trying to make it perfect, we're trying to make it creative, we're spending a lot of time on this project, and we want to make sure it's right. If you have that decision, that really negates a lot of that procrastination, because we know how procrastination is an exponential effect. It builds on itself. Once you start procrastinating, the procrastination sort of builds on itself, and before you know it, you've lumped all these guilty feelings on top of each other because you can't make a decision. So really, that's a key thing. There's a lot of other things, but this is a big component. So at the end of your work session, you should have that decision, your next action step, at least the decision made. You might even do the thing. You might even, color it to whatever color, and then you're ready to do the next part, which you already know. A big important part about this is perhaps making lists. I'm big on lists. I have lists all the time of stuff I'm working on. And what I might want to know is where I'm at. Because for some of us, especially those of you who aren't 9 to 5, aren't doing this every day, it might be a week or two until you come back to it. And then you have to kind of reset and recapitulate, do the recap of where you were with this project. And although that's sort of helpful to go over it, it's also kind of inefficient. So by making a short list of what you're doing, what your decisions or what you need to do next, I like to just put action steps. I need to color it this way. I need to cut this thing. I need to tool this part. I know what I need to do the next work session. And I also know that maybe I might need some parts or some supplies. So whenever that next time I come to that, I had that list to refer to make sure that I get those things done. Because sometimes we get stopped because we run out of supplies. Um, so I end that way. That way, when I come back the next morning, the next week, it's there. I don't really have to revisit everything in my head. I just can look at the list and I know exactly what I need to do. And again, it also creates this motivating force because you know what you need to do next. 95% of demotivating factors are just about getting off your ass. Okay, you just and a lot of that comes with uncertainty, not knowing what to do next. Another great way you can fight that uncertainty, besides making a list at the end of the day and being ready to start at the beginning of the day, is working with some other folks too. A lot of times, if I'm unsure of a decision, because remember, our creative stuff's about problem solving, and maybe I'm not sure which color scheme to use. So a lot of times, I have a couple people on a messenger list that a group, and we just share ideas and give feedback back and forth. And that creates accountability, but it also helps us kind of bounce stuff off each other. So we know that, oh yeah, that's a great color scheme, Don, or I don't know about that. How does that fit with your general idea? Um, and also, sometimes we're just looking for affirmation. We know what we need to do next. We just need somebody to say, yep, that's what I would do. And because we're at our heart, we're trying to make these artistic, creative decisions, and we're somewhat perfectionist, and we want to make sure that it's doing the right thing. Sometimes our materials are costly. The amount of time and effort we put in everything puts a lot of pressure on us to make the right decision. It's also great for ideas as well. Not only can you list supplies, I'm talking about lists, but not only can you list the supplies you might need, but you might have a couple ideas you just haven't quite fully fleshed out. And you're like, oh, I want to work with this material. I want to make, if you're doing jewelry, I want to use this stone on a piece. And I'm not ready to do it because it's 12 o'clock at night or it's the end of your work session. But you want to capture that idea. So that's a great way, is just jot down those couple elements, those couple ideas. For me, I have a dedicated workspace. So a lot of times I will actually stage the projects. I'll make little piles, or if it's a current build, I'll actually have it laid out, as Adam Savage would call knolled. Everything positioned where it's supposed to be, or on top of each other, so that I know I can just visually, it creates this boost of, I know what I'm doing. Because that's really a challenge for us sometimes, is you go through that week, you're tired, you've been working it all day, and you come home to your workspace, and sometimes you're just not enthusiastic. But knowing what your next action step is incredibly important to providing that motivation to get you down there to do that. Because you see it. You'll visually see your list, or you'll visually see all those elements spread out in front of you, waiting for you to make that magic, to create that really cool thing. And you just sometimes need that little push over the edge. And that's why making lists and having everything set at the end of the day is critical for whenever your next work session is. Um, those are things that I've really found to be very helpful. And I'll get into lists at another point, because you can do a lot with lists in terms of progress. And I know some of you make little items that are discrete. It's just like, I'm going to make a set of earrings and it's done. But a lot of you are making long projects that might take months to work on. So you need to be able to keep track of all those different steps. You need to be able to revisit those things and have that punch list of things you need to do. So again, it's invaluable to prepare for the next work session by leaving it in a good spot, leaving it in a place where you know what action to take. Because if you do that, it just sets you up to succeed. Okay? You do not want to set yourself up for failure. Now, one little last bit. Sometimes you're challenged and you don't actually know what your decision is going to be. You haven't solved the problem. What do you do then, Don? As I mentioned before, that's a great time to hit your messenger list or your group of people who you trust, who can give you feedback. Sometimes you know that, hey, you know what? I am just going to have to sleep on this. I oftentimes find that when I But my purpose in leaving that is that I know that I need to conquer that next step. And then through the rest of my evening, I might be taking a shower. For some reason, showers for me are a great way to, in a Zen-like sort of way, come up with ideas because it takes my focus away. I heard somebody say vacuuming is a great thing. Going for a walk, okay? Those will allow you to sort of manifest that idea and kind of come up with some solutions when you're not but sort of thinking about it. Okay, it's a little Zen thing. It's that sort of mind of no mind. It's there in the back of your head, but it's not in front of you that you obsess over it. And then a lot of times that allows your brain to relax, allows other parts of your brain to kind of step in and say, what about this? Or you might see something on TV or you're reading. Whole host of options. So that's the one situation is when you don't know what to do, that's a good way to figure that out. And additionally, the lists come in there. Maybe you jot down your options so that as you're thinking, you can decide which one is the best. So hope you found this useful, and get out there and create cool shit.